Meyer was the coach who dominated much of the news from Monday into Friday, but it was Friday afternoon, out of the blue, a report from the Wall Street Journal and statements eventually issued by the league and by the Raiders that Jon Gruden, back in 2011, when he wasn't employed by the NFL or any of its teams, sent an email to Bruce Allen, the former Washington executive. This is one piece of paper that has come to light out of 650,000 emails that were examined in the Washington football team investigation. That's a different issue, but there are people around the league saying, how do they manage to bury everything as it relates to Daniel Snyder and the Washington football team? None of that evidence comes out. And the one thing that comes out is an email that was sent by somebody who doesn't even work for the team. And again, it doesn't justify, it doesn't excuse, but it's something people are paying attention to, and it's a fair question. How does this happen? But it happened, and it got out. And Gruden used a racial trope in reference to NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith. Gruden has apologized for it. He's spoken to various different beat writers about it. He's acknowledged that he had some comments about Roger Goodell in a different email that maybe weren't flattering, and stuff about owners. And, Mike, look, you never know where these crazy stories are going to come from. They happen, and Jon Gruden's got a problem for himself right now.
Well, listen, he does, and we were teammates for a bit at ESPN, and so I know Jon. I don't know him well enough to know the character of this. Now, as is talked about with the racial comments, he's saying it was more along the lines of lying. The way the term he used was more that he used for people who he felt were lying, but obviously saying if people took it that way, that he was sorry for it after saying, I don't even remember, because a lot of years ago, remember doing it. And so there's people just shaking their heads saying just someone that won't own up to it at all. And then there are others, I listened to Tony Dungy, talk about it last night. I listened to Mike Tirico. Mike Tirico worked in the booth with Jon Gruden for, I think, 7 years at ESPN in kind of talking about Jon and his thoughts about Jon and Jon's character. I don't know Jon well enough to know his intent with that at all. But we all know that things you say in the past are going to that can come back, just as this one did, as you mentioned, one sheet of paper out of 650,000. And he's apologized for it, and many think he's not taking ownership of it, just saying, I meant it this way, but if you took it that way, then I'm sorry for it. So I think it's going to be one of those things where some people are just going to say he's wrong and won't admit he's wrong. Others are going to say, okay, you know what? Let's move on from this. Understand it's a bad thing, but like again, people listen to Tony Dungy and Mike Tirico. I think they were going more along those lines, if I remember correctly from them talking about it last night. And eventually, this is going. Now, I don't know. Do you think the league is going to eventually discipline Jon Gruden for this?
I think that it will be difficult for the league to do it, and I think whatever sanction is imposed will be the result of some sort of a joint agreement that Gruden does not try to fight or does not push back against in any way, maybe some sort of a significant fine, maybe some sort of a donation, something along the lines of Jon Gruden writing a check to atone for a sin from 10 years ago versus an actual suspension. I was told last night that this will be one of the major topics discussed at the weekly Monday morning meeting at 345 Park Avenue, where they go over the big issues. Usually there are issues coming out of the games. This is going to be a discussion that will occur. One person with a very high position in the league believes that there won't be a suspension. Part of the problem is, Mike, how do you justify it? He wasn't employed by the league or any of its teams in 2011 when he did this. And the Raiders, from their perspective, what can they do? He wasn't employed by the Raiders and wouldn't be again employed by the Raiders for more than 6 years. Now, there are certain ways you can lawyer protections for yourself into your contracts by having, for example, a coach sign a statement that there's nothing out there that I've said or done that if it were to come to light that we don't currently know about, and if there was something that contradicts that, then that could open the door for a for-cause termination, if that's even what Mark Davis, the owner of the team, would want to do. But that's the thing. He's shown that he wants Jon Gruden to be his coach. It would be different if he was thinking, man, I got to get rid of this guy. If only I could have some lucky bounce come my way and I can dump him and not have to pay him. But there's been no vibe from Davis that he wants to get rid of Jon Gruden. So I think that it would be difficult for the league to do anything because I studied the personal conduct policy. It would be tough to discipline him for something that he did when he wasn't employed by the NFL or any of its teams. Right. And I don't think the Raiders are motivated to do it. And there's a belief high up in the league office that he won't be suspended. So, it's just a question of what kind of understanding does Gruden in the league reach as a gesture, a significant financial gesture that will underscore his apology. I think that's what's ultimately going to happen.
And then obviously public opinion, right? As some people won't believe him and don't think that the apology was enough or that he meant it, and others that will say, yeah, we understand what he meant there and we're going to move on. So there's going to be a lot of public opinion involved in this. And then we all know what controls things after that at times. Sponsors. Are there any sponsors that do anything because of this? We all know that public opinion, this person says that, this person says that, doesn't do a whole lot, but all of a sudden some money people get involved and say, you know what, no more money's coming your way or coming this, your organization's way or whatever. And I don't know if it's going to happen in this situation, but that's a way where outside of the purview of your workplace where something can have an effect. And obviously we haven't seen any of that yet, or at least I haven't seen any of that yet, so I have no idea if any of that's going to happen.
Well, and Mike, the other side of it, too, is the locker room. What's the locker room going to do about it? How are they going to handle it? How are they going to react? And there were some bits and pieces that came out yesterday from players after the game. But I'm reminded of when Riley Cooper, who was playing for the Eagles at the time, was caught on camera shouting a slur at a Kenny Chesney concert. It was Mike Vick who eventually stood up and vouched for Riley Cooper within the Eagles, and that put out the fire because there was one hell of a fire in the Eagles locker room after that happened. And Gruden may need something like that. And look, I know we got to take a break, but it's only fair for us to play some of what Jon Gruden said yesterday. Let's hear from Gruden after the game, and then we may have a little more to say about that on the other side.
I'm not going to answer all these questions today. I think I've addressed it already. I can't remember a lot of the things that transpired 10 or 12 years ago, but I stand here in front of everybody apologizing. I know I'm not, I don't have an ounce of racism in me. I'm a guy that takes pride in leading people together, and I'll continue to do that for the rest of my life. And again, I apologize to D. Smith and anybody out there that I have offended.
Miles Simmons, who works with us at PFT, and he's on PFT PM a couple of times a week. We did the show on Friday just after this broke. And, one of his concerns is, and he wrote a great item on it on Friday night, if you want to check it out at profootballtalk.com, using phrases like, I have no racist bone in me, there's not an ounce of racism in me, I don't have a blade of racism in me, or I'm the least racist person you would ever encounter. There are others who have said things like that. That undercuts, in the opinion of Miles Simmons, the apology, that you don't need to add that to bolster yourself. Just apologize, say what you need to say, seek the reckoning and the atonement and move forward. Don't give us an excuse that really can't be proven objectively. I think that was Miles' point, and he articulated it much better than I ever could, and you can see the item at PFT. But that would be my only criticism of what Gruden said yesterday. Don't retreat to that vouching for yourself. Let others vouch for you, but don't vouch for yourself in a situation like that.
So again, that's all what he's saying publicly, but you made the point earlier, and it's true, and I've said you spend more time in the locker room with your teammates and coaches than what you do with your family. So what's going on in that locker room? There's with practice squad, over 70 players. There's coaches, there's training staff, there's other support staff that are all there and everybody has a different opinion, may have a different opinion. Some may accept what Jon said, and others may not. So it will be interesting. You got a lot of time left to go on what he said in the locker room to the players and the coaches and the support staff and what they all think in there and how it goes forward.
Yeah, and we'll see how it plays out. And they lost to the Bears on Sunday, and I've seen some in the media already suggest that may be evidence of how the locker room reacted to it. I think it's too soon to come to that conclusion, though. We got to see how the Raiders do going forward and whether to what extent Gruden is able to truly put this behind him. And we're still, less than 72 hours into this, so we'll see how it plays out.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.